HARK, we are here. It is time for yet another episode of Star Wars Unlimited Regroup Phase. We've seen all of the leaders, so it's that time for us to go over what the top leaders of the set are going to be. I've got 3 top leaders and 3 honorable mentions, and we'll explain why each of those are in their places. They're not going to be in any particular order. The first ones are going to be the top 3. The next ones are going to be honorable mentions, obviously, as that's what I just said. That's it. We've got leaders. We're going to talk about leaders. We're going to talk about a third of the leaders in the set. So without any further ado, our first leader in top 3 is a Maul rival in darkness. Maul, I believe, is going to provide Villainy the proper opportunity for an aggro build and really get that fantasy of floating as much damage onto your opponent's base without it being a heavy control or even a mid-range build that Villainy is very good at. Villainy is very good at control and really good at mid-range and not very good at aggro. And I think Maul is going to flip the coin on that and provide Villainy that aggro deck, because once per round, being able to use that overwhelm, clear out one of your opponent's units while still putting damage on the base, and then flipping into a 6/6 on 6. It's, you know, below average health unless your name's Hera on a 6 flip, but above average power because he does have that 6. He himself has overwhelm, but it gives your other friendly units overwhelm as well. If you can use abilities that allow you to attack with more than one thing per turn, say outflank or headhunting, that's going to give you the opportunity to get more use out of this overwhelm than just attacking with Maul himself. Your opponent might not be prepared for you to play a bunch of bounty hunters and then also throw that headhunting out, which gives your bounty hunter units +2 on the attack, which then also gives you the ability to overwhelm on that. Clear your opponent's board, overwhelm the damage onto your opponent's base, and then your opponent doesn't have the resources to be able to respond. This is going to be a very fun leader to watch in the meta. I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be tier 1 and meta relevant, but I know a lot of people are working on this. Shout out to Roll On Gaming. Shout out to anybody else working on Maul, trying to make sure that he is the best leader that they can run, because he's really good. He provides something very different for what Villainy is normally doing, and also still utilizes the best aspects of the mid-range and control plays for Villainy that they are good at. So Maul, a rival in darkness, that's why he's in the top 3. Next up, we have the face of the Confederacy himself, Count Dooku. Count Dooku is our command Villainy common leader, who's going to be putting your separatist strategies forward with his exploit 1 on the front side, or exploits 3 with his 5/9 for 7 on the flip side. This is a fantastic leader. I think this is going to be the top end of separatist strategies in the entire game, because you have the ability to exploit those things that don't already have exploit, or stack extra exploit while you're also generating a ton of droid tokens, which both command and just flat Villainy can do all day, every day. I think the premier list for this is going to be command cunning, so green, yellow, but you can use any color combination with Count Dooku and still have a solid deck. Double green, green, yellow, green, blue, green, red. It's all going to be viable. It's all going to be doing things that are very relevant and very interesting to the way that Dooku plays, and being able to get that flip with his own overwhelm that also exploits 3 after his attack. Has a 5/9. He's got staying power. He's going to do some damage. You're going to get those extra big vehicles out, or those big units that allow you to do stuff. And I mean, again, the next separatist card you play on either of those abilities gets extra exploit, or exploit if it didn't have exploit already. So attack with Dooku, have 3 of your things on the board, throw down an invisible hand, boom. Now you have more droids than you did before. This is a fantastic leader. I think one of the best leaders, and I think it will actually have some meta relevancy, so long as the deck is able to adapt to the board wipe strategy, which I think it definitely can, because the windows of opportunity to board wipe against this deck are very small, where otherwise a coordinate deck, you have all the windows of opportunity for wiping the board against that. You have to do it the second of. You can't waste time and allow your opponent to be able to get that exploit out, because if Dooku starts getting these exploiters out, you're going to have a lot of units that you can't deal with the normal token board wipers, and you have to use your higher value removal in order to be able to clear these things that your opponent did not pay a lot for. So Dooku, fantastic leader, also going to be very good and limited. Lots of really cool stuff here. And, you know, he's the face of the Confederacy for a reason. Last up, we have Nala Se, Clone Engineer, a late addition to this list. The other 2 leaders I had set very early on because they were seen very early on, and the leaders that were coming out thereafter were not that great. IMO, and I think just in general. Nala Se comes out second to last leader revealed and is like, hey, by the way, this leader's nuts. We saved the best for last because holy crap, Nala Se puts in work. Base level here, ignore the aspect of clone units you play. Literally, this card needs to do nothing else, and that's what makes it one of the best leaders in the entire set. Potentially one of the best leaders in the game. Flip side, though, she flips into a 1/7, ignoring the aspect penalty on clone units, and each friendly clone unit gains, when defeated, heal 2 damage from your base. This is Iden on steroids. Doesn't have the same power and toughness, more health than Iden does, doesn't have the shielded, less power, but that's okay. You're not attacking with Nalase. You're not trying to use Nalase herself to defeat enemy units. You're using your clones to defeat enemy units, and then those clones, when they're defeated, will heal your base and allow you to do things. The biggest thing is the ignore aspect penalty on units you play. Being able to say, any clone I have, no matter whether it's heroism or not, I get to play it no matter what my aspects are. You can run double vigilance, and it still means that your green, yellow, red, and heroism clones are going to come in for the cost that they're supposed to come in. So the biggest piece of information, the biggest, most important aspect of Nalase is tech. And the reason why is because that allows you to get all of your stuff where Villainy would normally have to pay 5 for that, now only has to pay 3 with Nalase, to be able to use those things in your resource row as your second hand to smuggle things out for 2 more. So some of those removal tools that you would have don't necessarily work adding 2 extra resource costs onto them, but the fact that they don't take a card from your hand and refill themselves is just genuinely nuts. And that's the main reason why I think Nalase might actually be one of the most oppressive leaders in the game for a long time. Nalase, tech, something to protect tech, and then all your control pieces is going to be the evolution of that vigilance, aggression, blue-red villainy deck that we saw in set 1 with both Iden and Vader at the helm. We didn't see too much of it in set 2, but set 3 is going to turn that whole thing on its head, because now you have 2 sets of resources to be able to draw your removal pieces from. Your hand for normal cost, your resource row for the extra cost with tech, and it does not take much to keep tech on the board because you're always clearing your opponent's units the second they come down anyway. Nalase is absolutely insane. This is a clone leader that heroism desperately needed, but you know what? Villainy is well loved and villainy is well represented. Those are the top 3, again in no particular order. Maul, Dooku, Nalase, I think are going to be the 3 best leaders in the set. I absolutely believe with 100% in my whole heart, my whole everything, that Nalase is going to be one of the top leaders coming out of the set, because nobody saw that Iden deck coming, and when it dropped, it became one of the most hated decks in the format. It dropped off the face of the earth because the Sabine and Boba decks just became a lot better with the stuff from set 2, but with set 3 giving Nalase a whole 2 sets worth of clones to be able to work with, and then one of the most powerful tools that Villainy hasn't really had access to in tech, that's going to be something that rears its ugly head again. We're going to see hyper aggro, we're going to see really solid mid-range come into play again, and we're going to see hardest of hard control, all kill, no skill coming back into the forefront with Nalase. The skill's going to be in the deck building, not necessarily in playing the game. But with all that said, those are 3 villainy leaders that are top 3. Where are the heroism leaders? They're just not that good. But we do have honorable mentions, and we've got 3 leaders here. So let's start with Mace Windu, the Pod Form Master. Mace Windu is an attempt to build a solid control deck for aggression that has a very good top line leader, and not necessarily for aggression, for heroism. The ability to deal damage to a damaged unit and then deal 1 more if it has 5 or more damage on it is very good on the front side for only 1 plus the leader exhaust. Being able to flip into a 5/8 when deployed, deal 2 damage to each damaged enemy unit. You're using your units to try to control your opponent's units so that when you flip, you get this and you can wipe out most of your opponent's board, or you're using things like Bombing Run, Bloodsport, and Grenade Strike to put as much damage on the board against your opponent's units, and then flip Mace Windu to clear the board that way, and then drop his lightsaber on him so you can draw the cards and put that huge pressure onto your opponent. We've seen this strategy work pretty well with Vader. We're going to see, interestingly, in this set if it's going to work well with Mace Windu and heroism. This was originally in my top 3, but Nalase bumped it right out the second she came in. Nalase went to top 1 immediately, but Mace Windu, I believe, was going to be one of the top 3 leaders. Now he's basically top 4, top 5, which we'll talk about that here later. But he is a heroism leader. He's a heroism leader that I believe genuinely is going to be good. We'll see if it's competitive good going forward. You all are probably going to question me as to why this is in my honorable mentions, and you're right. I did talk a lot about this leader when it first came out. I've talked a lot about it as other things that support this leader come out. I still don't think that this leader is as good as a lot of people think he's going to be, and he's not as good as I really wanted him to be. But this is going to be my deck coming off the first batch of cards that we build decks together because I want this to work. I want to be able to build something, and we got to get into the trenches and fight and be able to get that gameplay in so we can see if my initial impressions of this card are right. So if you've watched any of my videos, you already know who this is. This is Captain Rex fighting for his brothers. This is the Clone Trooper leader. We already know, or may not know, it just depends on when this video comes out, Cody is not a leader in the set. So Captain Rex is the only Clone Trooper leader, Clone Trooper token leader for heroism, while Villainy gets 2 droid leaders, 3 technically. But regardless of that, Captain Rex is here. He's our command heroism. I'm going to be running this deck command heroism aggression, so green red right off the bat, because I think the tools that aggression brings to the table for Captain Rex, especially with things like Batch Brothers and Jesse, are going to be really good tools to allow Rex to push that pressure, get those tokens out, support the tokens, or just put damage onto the opponent's base. As long as you can keep units attacking on the board, you can create a Clone Trooper once per round, and then flipping activates Coordinate immediately, so you get that Trooper token, you get the buff to all of your other Troopers with +1 health, Yularen will give all your Heroism +1 health, and then Shakti will give all the tokens +1 power, so you could be running Clone Trooper tokens that end up having 3 power and 4 health, plus any other modifiers you might have on the board. I want this to work. I don't think it will, but I'm going to put as much effort as I possibly can into this, and I might actually put a video out later of the first initial impressions of what a Captain Rex deck might look like going on at some point in time before the set releases. Who knows when that's going to actually come out. But Captain Rex will be my first deck. If it doesn't work, I'm probably going to flop over to either Nalase or Dooku, specifically because Dooku's got that token strategy that I really do like, and I think Dooku will actually make it work, unlike Captain Rex. But if not, what'll happen, if none of that ends up working out or being fun for me, I'm just going to go back to Hera and try to make that the best deck possible. Because, you know, Rex was supposed to be my savior, and I have to try to prove myself wrong. And you have to try to prove me wrong too. So let me know in the comments below what you think the best Rex build is going to be moving forward. And I might take some of those ideas and float them into my own deck once we get all of the cards for Twilight of the Republic. Last in the honorable mentions is a leader that I think is going to have a lot of potential, but it's going to be very difficult to build for and very difficult to pilot. Chancellor Palpatine playing both sides. This is a Republic official, a cunning heroism rare leader. This leader starts this side of the game face up, starts the game face up, whatever. So your heroism side is how it starts. Action, exhaust this unit. If a friendly heroism unit was defeated this phase, draw a card, heal 2 from your base, and then flip the leader. Flip the leader? What about the epic action? This leader does not have an epic action. It flips into Darth Sidious, playing both sides. 4 separatist Sith traits. Action, exhaust the leader. If you've played a villainy card this phase, create a Clone Trooper token, deal 2 damage to each enemy base, and then flip the leader. So Sidious is the separatist Republic leader that is going to be very interesting to play. You're going to have to manage your aspect penalties each time you flip the card, because on the Chancellor side, you pay the penalty on villainy cards. On the Sidious side, you play the penalty on heroism cards. So you have to make sure your deck is filled enough with cards that you want to be able to use to trigger each version of this. So probably a lot of heroism units and a lot of villainy events. But the fact that Sidious on his other side does create the Clone Trooper token, if you can start the train by losing a heroism unit, flip into Darth Sidious, Sidious's the leader side will fill your heroism unit pretty much each time in order to be able to use it. So you won't be able to use it multiple times a turn because it does flip, and it doesn't say it flips ready. So you would be able to use Chancellor Palpatine, flip. The next round you would use Sidious, flip, back. So it'll be very interesting to see how this leader works. This is a unique design. I think a lot of people are going to be very attracted to this right off the bat, and I think a lot of those people are going to bounce off this very hard because it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of mental capacity to play this deck properly, to play the proper cards in the proper sequences, to build the deck correctly, and do some interesting stuff with it. I actually might build this deck, but specifically double cunning, so double yellow, so that way I have all the cards that will pay the least amount of penalties, and try to put as many of the Republican separatist supporting strategies, much like that Chancellor Palpatine that brings your tokens in ready, and try to utilize those strategies to mesh with the leader abilities on each side. You get tokens from the dark side version. You have to defeat your units from the light side version, It'll be very interesting to see how this works, but I think this is absolutely an honorable mention as the last leader revealed, a leader I was not expecting to have any impact and might actually genuinely have some really cool impact. So there you have it, 6 leaders out of 18 that I think are going to be either the best or the most impactful. Maul, Dooku, Nalase being the best, Rex being my leader going forward, and then Mace and Palpatine potentially being some of the most impactful. It's gonna be very interesting to see what people utilize for leaders in the set moving forward. I know a lot of people are gonna be like, what about Anakin? What about Yoda? What about this? What about that? What about Watt? No, I don't think they're going to have the impact everybody expects them to. But if you do, you should build towards that and make sure that you can make that work for you, your local meta, and your showdowns and your PQs that'll be coming with set 3. For me personally, I'm on Rex until the wheels fall off. Hopefully, if they do fall off, they fall off faster than Mando did. And if they don't fall off, it lasts longer than Mando did. So there's that. Lots of fun stuff coming out for Twilight of the Republic. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining me. I appreciate each and every one of you. Let me know what your favorite or best leader in the set is going to be in the comments down below. Fight for your choice. I want to hear opinions. Subscribe to this Star Wars Unlimited channel for all of your Star Wars Unlimited needs. We're going to have those aspect videos coming out as soon as the set's done. The press kits are going to have the remainder of the set come out at a specific area. I don't know if I'm going to be getting one. Hopefully I will, but if not, it is what it is. Anyway, thank you for joining me, folks. Appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you in the stars.